Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I am here with Bill Tyer. Bill is running for Pittsfield School Committee this year. Bill, thank you for taking the time to do this today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
And for those who are not familiar with you, if you just want to introduce yourself and why you're running for school committee this year.
Thank you, Mike. Well, my name is Bill Tyer, and I'm running for school committee here in Pittsfield. I'm a single parent, widowed parent of 3 kids. Gus, who's autistic, just graduated, got a signed diploma. I'm so proud of him. Sarah is in Herberg Middle School, and then my youngest, Madison, is in her last year at Allendale School. So I've been involved with the schools in the school system, especially special needs. Gus is special needs, he's autistic. So I've been around in the schools and in Pittsfield. I felt a need to run this year because I have the time. I'm retired. I have kids in the school system. And I think we really need an advocate, not just for the students, but also for the teachers and for the parents as well. So I believe in getting involved, and I've been involved with the planning board down in Southern Berkshire, Pittsfield Youth Commission up here. I was the KB Toy representative to the First Night Committee when we had First Night. So I also was on the board of directors for Girls Incorporated back in the day. So I've been around and I've been involved, and I see a need that we can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. And what we're seeing today is we have a teacher retention problem. We can't keep teachers, and there's a lot of reasons for this. Most is money, but other is school safety. We have a situation now where students are choicing out. So even though they're going to, say, Lennox, we're still paying for it. Pittsfield is paying for that child to be educated in Lennox. And that puts a tremendous draw on us. And people don't realize, I don't think, I was surprised a little bit myself, that the school committee is about at least 60% of the overall budget in the city. And we're talking about our budget last term was, I believe, $47 million for the schools. And people say, wow, $47 million. But when you look at the breakdown, it's not a whole lot when you consider we have contracts, we have our own busing system, we have school buildings that need to be maintained. And that actually came up in a forum earlier, was the school building needs. And I propose that we come up with a 5 to 10 year plan for all of the schools, not just PHS, but all of the schools, because they all need work. But we need to come up with a plan, and we need to keep revisiting it every year to make sure we're on target. That's what we would do in a business, and that's what we should do with our schools. It was brought up that perhaps we should consolidate some of the schools. And I thought about it, and I said, we've got to think 10 years down the road, because right now we're seeing the population dwindle. The goal for the city and the goal for the school department is not to see it dwindle, it's to bring kids back. And it's also to grow the city. So what happens in 10 years when the city population goes up and the school population goes up? Are you going to build another school? You've already closed 2. So it just doesn't seem. We need a better look at it. We need to put everybody's heads together, and that's where I think I would do well on the school committee, because I've looked at those long-term planning issues with other communities, and I'm a fresh face. I'm a new guy in town when it comes to the school committee, so I can bring an insight to that. And
okay, well, have you had a chance to get out there and door knock?
Oh, yeah.
And so what are some of the big things you're hearing from the people then?
A lot. The biggest thing I'm hearing is school safety. And I'm very much in favor of school resource officers. Right now, I believe we have 2. We actually, in reality, should have 4 or 5. They're not in the middle schools and in the high schools. We only have 2. The others that retired the police department doesn't have enough trained officers to do it.
Right, I know.
They're short.
When
of
our
officers.
mayor ran, originally the mayor we have now, on her first campaign, and I believe the second one too, one of the big things that was discussed there is a city our size, we kept hearing this, should have 120 police officers.
They don't.
And we have, I think, 2 or 3 less than we had under her predecessor. So
Right.
I know staffing is an issue, and pay within the department also. And then, of course, a resource officer has to acquire a whole separate level of training also. But do you feel like if we couldn't do an officer right now because of staffing, do you see other avenues that we could take to provide that?
We could, we have to think outside the box. If we can't get a Pittsfield police officer, let's talk to the sheriff's department. Let's talk to private security teams that are out there. We'd have to look at the cost and all this other stuff and the training as well. But, we can't just say, well, we don't have enough officers. Oh, well, that's not going to cut it, because it's our first line of defense. And we've seen in the news in the past week or so, even, that a resource officer was one of the key factors in a raid that took place that netted, ghost guns and whatnot. And that is our first line of defense, I think. And it also bridges not just to respond to a problem or, maybe prevent a problem, but it also builds a community spirit with the police officers, with parents, with the teachers, and with the students, to bring back a little bit of a respect. They build these friendships with these kids, and they really do wonderful things. They do wonderful things, and I advocate for that. I also advocated for school adjustment counselors, especially coming out of COVID. I think it's needed in all the schools, and right now we do have some, but we don't have them in every school. They pulse around to different schools, so they can't build a relationship with the staff.
So other than school safety, are there any other issues that are standing out that people are on the minds? I know that's probably the biggest one. I hear a lot of that also, but
it's the biggest one, and it's a giant pool, and there's many little streams that come out of safety. Not just COVID is one of those streams. We have to provide for safety in that respect. I'm also finding that the teachers, our retention problem, and it's not just teachers, it's the staffing, I call them support staff. We are, I believe, number 7th in the area for the pay scale. So
right, and right now, as far as I know, our teachers still don't have a contract. So
no, they don't, and they're asked to do more, but they're not getting anything in return for that, is the best way that I can put it. Especially after COVID, and now we started with the virtual, and I'm curious to see how that's going to go. There's a year rollback on it. They're going to try it for a year and then put more money into it, I guess.
Well, that was what, 3 million that went into the virtual academy, and I believe that
I think it was more than that.
I think it also created an entire new administrative. We have a separate principal for that, and
right.
And then what the big question is with that is what happens to them if that no longer continues.
See, that's the thing. That's the problem when you hire people with grant money. Grant money isn't free money. Grant money comes with strings, and it's limited. Way back in the day, you're probably too young to remember this, but the big push from the state was to
we're almost the same age.
No, I know. But it was come up with town managers, and the state was going to fund these, and they were going to get grants to pay for themselves and all this other stuff. And I wasn't the only one. There were several people in town politics that said, well, what happens in 5 years? Who's going to absorb that salary? We are. So we have to look down. We can't just think of just today. We have to do 2 things. We have to multitask. We have to be able to multitask.
Right. And when you say support staff, another big one that I'm passionate about, huge, because I learned a lot about, is what our cafeteria workers are going through, and that many of them
They can't even
are
live.
making below what the state minimum wage is. And the reason
Exactly.
for that is the schools only have to adhere to federal law, and federal minimum wage is still like $7.55 or whatever it is. So
That's right.
we have cafeteria workers making $2 an hour below the state minimum wage, which is unbelievable.
And I've worked in food service. I know exactly how, what's happening. And they can't keep people there, because why take a job that, you could go down to McDonald's and make more money. So that's where those people are going. And they're underworked, they're overworked and understaffed. Basically, they can't keep people there. So somebody's got to do the work. And another big thing that I'm finding with the school department anyway, not just from parents, but with all this supply chain problem that we're having, the schools are taking a hit. They can't get vendors to give them food. They can't order it. It's not about money. It's about availability. Right. I find it myself. My truck needs a new radiator and a new fan. And I brought it to my mechanic, and he said, yeah, Billy, you need a new radiator and a new fan. He said, it'd take about 5 days for me to get the parts. And I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, no, I can't get the parts. They're not on the shelves. I can't get them. So it's going to take a week. So I said, all right. So we limp by with that. But I'm finding that in the schools too. And a lot of parents are concerned with things that they're not seeing in the press.
Well, we're going through a hyperinflation period right now.
Exactly.
And we have a large percentage in the community that live below the poverty line. And I know that the meals provided through the school is really a lifeline to many of these children. So I know that's an issue.
And it's tough. There's a lot of single parents that I'm finding out there too. And I know as a single parent, luckily I'm in a good position, but the single mom, I met a woman the other day. She's a single mom. She's got 3 kids, and she has to work 2 jobs just to be able to pay rent, to get food and whatnot. Childcare is taking up a huge hit in her budget. And when the school closes down, or the school has a half a day of school, she freaks out because, oh, now what am I going to do? I got to get my kids out of school at noontime off the bus. Do I have a babysitter? Do I pay a babysitter? Do I have to take a half a day off of work?
Well, right. So, and, during COVID, our cafeteria workers stepped up and went there to make those meals to go, the prepared meals to go, which was amazing. Then immediately after that, we're at risk of losing their jobs when the city wanted to get rid of them. I couldn't believe
I don't understand that. But I really don't, because it's like with, I'm going to say it, police officers do a tremendous job. They're under enormous pressure. And yes, is everybody perfect? No, everybody's not perfect, but let's not vilify them. You know what I mean? Let's not vilify them. They're doing a hell of a job. And, people say, oh, well, the cops don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't have arrested me for that, and they should have done this. Well, you know what, guys? They're doing a job, and they're doing it as best they can. And they were the first ones there. The nurses, the doctors, the first responders, they were going into hospitals and working when everybody else was stuck at home.
Right.
And now to say, oh, well, they get too much money, or they do. Are you kidding me? We depend on these people until we don't want to depend on them anymore. And that's just wrong.
Well, I guess in closing then, what would you say to the people of the city of why they should vote for you for school committee? And what is the best way for them to be able to reach out and talk to you if they have any questions?
Well, again, my name is Bill Tyer, and I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. And I think I bring a different focus to the job. I have a different life experience than I think every member or every candidate that's there now. And I have kids in the school, so I'm connected in a lot of ways. People can connect with me. They can find me on Facebook under Bill Tyer. They can send me an email. They can call my home phone. The city clerk always knows where to get a hold of me. And I actually have had people that have reached out and called me and said, do I have the right guy? Because there's several Bill Tyers. Do I have the right
number that you can share?
Yeah,
now? Or
it's 464-7242. And then that's my home phone number in my landline here in Pittsfield. And again, they can get me on Facebook under Bill Tyer. And we'll get to there. I meet with everybody. I talk with everybody. Some people I agree with, some people I don't. Some people agree with me, some people don't. I had a gentleman the other day that said the same thing. He said, I like it and I'm going to vote for you, except this one issue I have a problem with. Can you explain why you say what you say? And I did. I explained it to him. And he said, okay, great. Now I feel more comfortable and I can vote for you. And I said, God love you. Thank you. Bring your neighbors, bring your family, bring, a pizza guy on Tuesday to go vote. I voted early because I had business at City Hall. And I was with the clerk and I said to her, I said, when did they start that? And she goes, you can go vote now, Billy. And I said, really? And I went over and it was easy peasy. You went in, filled out your ballot, boom, you were done. My Gus is voting age. He'll go in person to 3B over at Egremont School, and I'll bring him in and he'll vote. Hopefully he votes for me. I don't tell him how to vote. I don't, because he's registered independent.
I think there's probably a good chance he'll vote for you, though.
I think he will too. I'm hoping, but I don't threaten. I just say, Gus, you do what you want to do, and he'll okay. But yeah, I would ask everybody, and it's really important. I want you to vote for me. I want you to give you one of your 6 votes on the school committee to me. But it's really important that you vote, because we've been seeing the decline in people that are getting involved, even if it means just going and voting. And I joke, I wanted 15 to 20%. And some people rolled their eyes and they said, oh, we'll never get that many. And because there's about 40,000 population and not all registered voters, but
I think we have the population now, according to the last census, is 43,987. And I think we're right around the 24,000 or so registered voters, something like that. I'm shooting, and I have faith in the residents of Pittsfield. I'm shooting for 20 to 23% voter turnout. So, but
I'm hoping you're right.
I hope I am too. But I appreciate you taking the time to do this today. I really do.
Mike. Thank you.
And regardless, I know as involved as you are in the community, win or lose, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Now I'll always be there to answer your questions or comments, or you can yell at me or do whatever. Even if I don't get elected, you can still yell at me and say, why didn't you go to this board meeting? And if I get elected, I expect it. I've been stopped in the grocery store all the time. So I enjoy it. I actually do enjoy it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Bill. I really
thanks again,
appreciate
Mike.
your time today. I wish you the best of luck on Tuesday, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Mike. Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too.